The Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight is a wrap. And Jake Paul loses by split decision. I've got to say, I agree wholeheartedly. If you watch the match from beginning to end, it was Fury's match. Fury won this fight. He definitely outboxed Jake Paul. But I got to say, you can't take anything away from Jake Paul. Other than the fact that he's a shit talker and he said he was going to knock him out in 4 rounds. Fury said the same. He said he was going to knock him out in 4 rounds. The fight with the distance, a full 8 rounds. I think you got to say that Jake Paul is at least a decent caliber boxer. He is a boxer. You can't just call him like a YouTube personality anymore. Like, he has transformed himself into a boxer. Those are facts. But he wasn't good enough on this night to take on Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury just outboxed him the whole match. I mean, you could see, I would say 6 of the 8 rounds, Tommy Fury dominated. Paul didn't land as many punches as he wanted to. He had a pretty low landed percentage. And Tommy Fury just looked like a seasoned boxer in there. He looked smooth. He looked fresh the whole bout. Jake looked pretty exhausted a little ways in, maybe 3-4 rounds in. Jake was looking pretty rough, and Tommy looked pretty fresh all the way to the end of the fight. Now, I almost thought that they would give it to Jake Paul just for the fact that he hung in there for all 8 rounds, and he had the knockdown in round 8, which was the only knockdown of the fight. But you have to also give it to Tommy because after the knockdown, he sprung right back up, and he had a nice little flurry of his own right towards the end of the fight. So, I mean, that would have been a close round anyway. He landed some really clean punches after that knockdown that almost could have been a slip. Like, it was a jab that knocked him down. A couple of good shots by Jake Paul throughout the fight. Like I said, Fury was just more consistent. But you've got to give Paul credit for lasting 8 rounds with a professional boxer. I think a lot of people will take this fight as, oh, Jake Paul finally fought a real boxer and lost. But I think the thing really to take away here is that Jake Paul went the distance with a professional boxer and won and lost by split decision. Now, there's likely a rematch in the works. I think there'd be a lot of money in it. It sounds like they've already kind of agreed to it. I thought the contract was kind of funny to begin with. Part of the rematch clause in the contract said that if Fury won, Jake Paul would get the chance for a rematch. But if Jake Paul had won, Tommy Fury would not have the option of a rematch with Paul. So definitely that part of the clause was in Jake Paul's favor and purposely. But hey, I mean, it also means that we will likely at some point get a rematch. Do I want it right away? I don't think so. I think I want to see Jake Paul maybe fight some other fighters first. I want to see him get better. I think that what he's done in the last, 5 years of boxing training, maybe less, 3 years, is damn impressive. Like, going from a guy who's not a boxer to a guy who is boxing professionally and finally fighting an actual boxer and knocking out some elite level fighters who aren't boxers but are fighters, professional fighters. That's nothing to sneeze at. So I'd like to see him, continue to get his feet wet, continue boxing, continue improving his craft, and I'd like to see him come back and have a rematch that I think Tommy Fury would be more prepared for as well. They're both very young in their career. That's what people I think kind of overlook because of the fact that they were just, headlining a main event. But that doesn't usually happen for boxers who are 8-0 and 6-0. Like, that's not a thing. They're still building their careers early on. You don't usually get a main event fight like that. And obviously it was thanks to Jake Paul's MVP Productions that put it together that way, promotions that put it together that way. But either way, you don't have that big of an event where you're the main card, you're the main fight, and a packed arena. And it was a packed arena in Saudi Arabia, and the whole world was watching this because of all the build-up. Tommy Fury definitely had a lot more pressure on his shoulders. So serious props to him for fighting with all of this ridiculous pressure that, you know, maybe shouldn't have even been. Like, he just kind of got hit with this whirlwind because he got into a confrontation, a back and forth, and, you know, some disagreements about fights and when the fights would be, and then having to pull out of fights, and doing this with such a well-known personality like Jake Paul. If this had been any other fighter, it would not have been the hoopla that it was. It would not have been all the trash-talking fans saying that Fury was trying to duck Jake Paul, which I think is kind of a ridiculous thing to say, that he would try to duck a guy that had never fought a professional boxer before. I don't think that's the case at all. I'm sure there was legitimate things keeping him from the previous fights. But, you know, neither one of these guys are like top-tier boxers. You have to remember this. They're just starting out their careers. So this, in the grand scheme of things, really doesn't mean anything. I think Jake Paul should keep boxing. I think Tommy Fury should continue, if that's what he wants, to build on his family's legacy and continue on. I think not only the pressure of all the, like I said, the social media pressure and shit like that, and the basically the big game pressure, right? The big event under the lights, main event pressure that he's never done before. But on top of that, you know, there's all this stuff going around online, how his brother and father are going to disown him if he loses, that they're going to leave him in Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury put $1 million on the line and bet on his brother to win. It's just a lot of pressure, man. Like, even if you're very self-assured, very confident in your abilities, that's still, like, anything can happen in a fight. You know, Jake Paul could have gotten lucky with an overhand right and knocked him out, you know, just on a fluke. So that's a lot of pressure going in. So you got to give it to Tommy Fury, and for being a good sport after the fact, after all the shit that Jake talked, you know, agreeing to do the rematch and having that be part of the contract that he signed, and then also after the match giving him props, and I really appreciate that about him and about John Fury, his dad, his trainer, who declared that Jake Paul has the right to call himself a professional boxer, that he really surprised him with his skills in the ring. He did not expect him to be as good as he was, and you know, had a chin, had a lot of heart, and lasted 8 rounds against a pro boxer. So he legitimately can call himself a professional boxer, and I agree 100%. But I'd love to hear what you guys thought of this fight. Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I think it was a fair call. I'm not sure it honestly should have even been a split decision. I do feel like Tommy was more comfortable, more poised in this match, and handled himself much better throughout. Seemed much less winded, much less gassed throughout the fight, landed way more punches, and just seemed to really control the match. Jake seemed to be flailing a bit. And look, guys, I'm a huge Jake Paul fan. You know, I'm an Ohio guy. He's an Ohio guy. His brother's an Ohio guy. And I admire what they've built from their, you know, teenage social media presence, and build it into this, like, empire of brands and promotional companies, and just the fact that Jake Paul is fighting professional boxers. Like, this wasn't something that was preordained for him. Like, he was a reality, not a reality star. He was a YouTube star. Who'd have thought he could turn himself into a boxer in 3 to 5 years? That's insane. And to go in and fight a guy like Tommy, who's probably been groomed to do this his whole life. He's probably been boxing, training in boxing for the past 8 to 10 years. So that's saying something for Jake Paul as well. Like I said, props to both men. They both battled it out, and the fight lived up to the hype. I feel like it went the full 8 rounds. It was a great back and forth. There was some nice big shots landed by both fighters at different points in the fight, but definitely Tommy Fury dominated in terms of boxing skill throughout this fight, and just overall poise and taking the fight to Jake Paul. And Jake Paul, I feel like couldn't quite match up yet, and that's just the facts. But I'd love to see a rematch, like I said, after some time. So, as I said, let me know what you guys thought. Let me know in the comments below, or if you're listening in podcast form, reach out on Instagram or Twitter at RealBrettScott and let me know what you thought of Paul versus Fury. All right, guys, if you're into this sort of thing where I talk entertainment and pop culture, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you do decide to stick around and subscribe, then I will talk to you again real soon. Thanks.